Jumpstart. I'm going to do things a little differently this week. Instead of reading a passage to you, I'm going to give you one to read and a challenge. So I want you to read 1 Samuel chapter 17, the entire chapter, not just a few verses. So if you're watching live, feel free to pause and go read now. If you're watching live on a Wednesday night, read it when you go home. This is a very familiar passage. A lot of people know this passage. It's about David and Goliath. And we've seen it on VeggieTales, we've heard about it in Sunday school, we've heard about it at Vacation Bible School, maybe your pastor's taught you about it. But what it boils down to is this passage is usually one that people don't get everything in because they rely on what other people have taught them. I had a Bible study recently, we read through it, and a lot of the people there were working off assumptions that they had been taught instead of what they had read and learned themselves. Assumptions like David used 2 stones, one to distract Goliath, one to hit him. Not knowing that when David defeated Goliath, he cut his head off and took his armor as a trophy, and then went and met King Saul with the head still in hand, with the goal of taking it back into the capital. So, as we're reading through, and as a youth pastor, I love seeing that aha moment where people go, "Wow, I didn't know that." But as a youth pastor, I'm also sometimes saddened that we don't read enough scripture on our own, and we depend on what other people tell us to do. And so, take some advice from Paul this week. In the book of Acts, there's a group known as Bereans who would listen to Paul preach, but then would read what he was preaching on to test it and make sure he was right, make sure that he was true, and to make sure that what he was telling them was correct. So do that this week. Read scripture on your own. Don't just believe what I tell you. Don't believe what your pastor tells you. Don't believe what your parents tell you. Follow it up, study it, make sure on your own, and use that to jumpstart your week.